All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the City of Tyler Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for December the 6th. We welcome all of our guests, friends and family and neighbors who are here for this meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Agenda item Z22-072 will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, December 14th, commencing at 9 a.m. All other items approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, January the 11th, commencing at 9 a.m. If you received a notice for this meeting, you also received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Commission solely unless there's a request for waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If any item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. That appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you are here to speak for or against an item, please state when you come to the microphone, and please state your name and address for the record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. At the conclusion of this meeting, we will have a workshop to plan for our next meeting, and that workshop will be held across the street in the Tyler Development Center, 423 West Ferguson, in the large conference room. And that meeting, like all of our meetings, are open to the public. Y'all are welcome to attend. First time on our agenda is a roll call. Sheila?
Yes, sir. Pamela Phoenix.
Present.
Jimmy Reed.
Present.
Beth Whitney.
Here.
Blair Swain.
Here.
John Landis.
Here.
Lloyd Nichols.
Here.
David Hudson.
Present. Does that give us a quorum, Sheila? Sounds like it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is an item that was tabled from our last meeting, Z22-063. Is there a motion to remove this item from the table?
Do we want to do the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. It's always make at least one. The next item on our agenda is minutes from the last meeting. All commissioners had an opportunity to review those. Any corrections or changes, all those. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from November 1st, 2022. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Kyle, for helping the chair. The next item on our agenda is the table item from last time, Z22-063. Is there a motion to remove?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we remove Z22-063 from the table. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is now available for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this item, Z22-063.
Thank you. Let the record show that Mr. Reed's recusing himself and is stepping outside the room. Ronnie.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and good afternoon to everyone present here. This is a zone change request from PMF, Planned Multifamily District, to POD, Planned Office District. In the last meeting, it was tabled because we hadn't received the final site plan for review. That is still the case. The applicant is still working on the final site plan and the details of it, so they have requested to table this item indefinitely so they can have more time to work on it.
All right, thanks. Any questions for city staff? If not, are the persons here who have an interest in this item for or against? Yes, sir. Please come to the mic. I'm sorry, but please come to the microphone.
Good afternoon and thank you. I'm a neighbor in that area representing several other families in the area. My name is Robert Bruce. I live at 1721 Pinecrest. I directly front the property in question. I would just like to make sure that we get notice of what that final site plan narrative is when it becomes available. That's all.
Carl?
Will we
Yes.
be given any notice?
Yes. So before it can come back, to the commission, there will have to be another public notice of that meeting, so.
And it'll be mailed specifically to us in the neighborhood to review that?
Within 200 feet, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and presence. Any other person who would like to speak on this item? If not, the motion's, the staff recommendation is to table indefinitely. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we indefinitely table Z 22-063.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this item indefinitely. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item's tabled indefinitely. At this point, I've had a couple of requests to rearrange the schedule slightly. If there's no objection, I'm going to request that, I'm sorry? You'd think I knew. Jimmy.
He was punished again. He was punished again.
Let the record show that the chair really does like Mr. Reed and would never intentionally exclude him from a meeting. Intentional. Just every other meeting. But, if there is no objection, I'd like to move Z 22-072 Bar Creek Group LLC up. Is any objection to that? All right, Kyle?
Sir, this is a request for a zone change from C2 General Commercial District to M1 Light Industrial District. This is along Frankston Highway, just on the boundary of the city limits. As you can see here, the surrounding properties are zoned for commercial uses, primarily undeveloped. There are some non-conforming homes, single-family homes to the south. Couple of properties south of this. To the west, that's outside the city limits and developed with a mixture of warehouse or car lot uses and things like that. This property only fronts along Highway 155 South, which is a major arterial. As you can see here, it's primarily undeveloped around it. The applicant's requesting the zone change to construct a billboard on the property. In order to develop or to install a billboard in the city, it has to be on an industrial property. So M1 is the least intense zoning to allow for that. With billboards, the Unified Development Code requires that it has a cap and reduce policy on which requires that for each new face that's installed, 2 other faces are removed. So there's no net increase in billboards in the city of Tyler. That was adopted in 2008. So the applicant's aware of that requirement. This property does not have any other billboards on that side of the street in close proximity, so it would meet any of those requirements for spacing. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval of the zone change from C2 to M1.
All right, thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, I have a card from Mr. Hines. Mr. Hines is available for questions. Any questions from Mr. Hines? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Z 22-072.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. I didn't ask if there are others who have questions or comments on this item. Are there? If not, the motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next, again, I'm going to, with the approval of the commission, I'm going to move item PD 22-023, Mother Frances Regional Hospital up. Kyle?
Yes, sir. This is a zone change request from AG Agricultural Zoning to PMF Planned Multifamily Residential. The applicant's proposing to develop multifamily development on this property, kind of, or in the cottage housing style. So these are units that are primarily detached units, but they are on a single lot, so they do kind of function as a multifamily development. The adjacent properties to all the properties adjacent within the city limits are also zoned for agricultural. They zoned that way when the property was annexed, and so there's no other zoning at this time. Outside the city limits, there are properties that are developed with a mixture of industrial and some residential uses. But this area is primarily undeveloped. This request would amend the future land use guide to mixed use center, which is primarily what you're going to see on that intersection there of Grande Boulevard and Old Jacksonville Highway. This use would complement those other future commercial uses. As you can see here, is undeveloped in that area. The applicant plans to develop single-story or 310 single-story units on this acreage with a maximum density of just over 10.5 units per acre. Multifamily zoning typically has 24 units per acre maximum, so this is well below that. This is just over 10 units per acre. As you can see, there are units, or single-family units, and then some attached one-bedroom units on this site plan. They are located along the internal drive within the development as well as offset from that. As you can kind of see, these are the proposed units, or kind of the style, 1 to 3 bedroom units with this development. The property will have access to Crow Road as well as Oak Hill Boulevard. Of the notices that were sent out, 2 were returned in favor, 0 were returned in opposition. When we sent out the packet, we did have some concerns initially about drainage off-site. And so the applicant has spoken to the neighboring properties, and they are in communication with how that's going to work itself out. But at this time, there's no opposition to the proposed land use. And with that, the staff has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve Stanley?
Kyle, from our packet, it shows issue with stormwater runoff, but also with utilities as well. And so I didn't hear you speak about utilities. So has all the protests been pulled? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to confirm. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks. Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item for or against? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the microphone and state your name and the rest of your record.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Josh Eady. I'm the Vice President of Development for Next Metro Communities. We are the applicant on this case. 2221 Lakeside Boulevard in Richardson. I've signed in as a speaker, so it should be on there. Kyle, I'd sent in a presentation. Do you know if that got queued up? If not, I can just walk through it. This is fairly straightforward, and it's better for questions anyway. You see the site plan. I think Kyle already showed the elevations. So what we build on all of our projects is single-story homes. These are residential permanent homes. You would look and feel just like a home, but because there's multiple of them on one lot, therefore it's multifamily-based zoning, and that really allows for more efficient utilities, access, and some other things that would help bridge the gap between single-family and multifamily type zoning. Next Metro has been around for about 10 years. I'm based in the DFW office, and I cover all of North Texas. We have about 14 projects in the DFW market right now. This will be our first project in East Texas. We're very excited about it. This one is a little bit of a larger size project for us, but being this far from our headquarters in DFW, wanted to make sure that it had adequate size and strength to operate out here. We'd love to do a second project, but one thing at a time. So these are all individual structures. The one-bedroom homes are built in a duplex style, so they technically share a wall, but the 2- and 3-bedroom homes are individual homes with 4 independent walls, private backyards, those sorts of things. So all of them, again, are one story, a combination of brick, stone, other masonry veneer, and cedar veneer as well. Thank you. These are 9 of our typical elevations. So again, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes. And then we'll also have a leasing center, a pool, a spa, grill area, dog park, those sorts of amenities, just like you would have with a residential community development. We don't have a clubhouse, we don't have a gym, we don't have typical multifamily amenities, just because our residents want kind of a more quiet feel. This is a really great opportunity, I think, in the city of Tyler, just because of the presence of all the medical folks coming into town. This will be a great option to have a home that they could lease rather than having to own, to be able to facilitate that sort of growth. So again, we're really excited to be here. I'd love to open it up for any questions about the product type I can answer.
I'm glad you clarified, because I was trying to determine, since it's single units, why it wouldn't be, single residence, and you just said because more than one sits on a lot. How many sits on a lot?
The entire property is 1 lot, so all of them.
Okay.
310 in this instance. So this will be platted as 1 lot, and so it'll go through, we will dedicate all of our fire lanes, all of our utilities, all of those sorts of things, just like you would have with commercial development. The leasing center, which is not occupiable, that will pull a commercial permit, and so that'll kind of unlock all of this, the civil development there. But then the individual homes and structures themselves are residential permits that you would pull just like a neighborhood. So it's a little bit of a combination.
Unique.
Well, thanks. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you, sir, for your time and presence here. Are there others who would like to speak on this item for or against? Any discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve PD 22-023.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Good luck with your project and welcome to Tyler. We're now going to go back on the regular order, which is PD 22-024, the Blue Pinnacle Group, and thanks everyone for your indulgence in just a slight change in the schedule. Kyle? Lloyd, is this?
Yeah, we're on.
Torelli's gonna present
Ron's
this.
gonna do it.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a zone change request from AG Agricultural District, C1, Light Commercial District. There's a bit of PCD as well, that's Planned Commercial District, and a PMF, that's a Planned Multifamily too. They're combining all of that, and then they're requesting a zone change to PMF with the site plan. This is a property that's located east of the southeast intersection of Blue Mountain Boulevard and West Cumberland Road. The applicant is requesting the zone change for a multifamily development. Looking at the surrounding zoning, the property to the north is the Roselawn Cemetery, and the properties to the east is zone C1 and PCD, and there's a mixture of undeveloped land and also a fire station. The properties to the west and the south are all single-family homes and is R1A zoning district. Looking at the future land use guide, this is consistent with the future land use guide. It identifies the property as mixed-use center. That's the aerial view of the property. Let me pull up the site plan. The applicant is proposing 274 single-family homes with a density of 14.3 units per acre. It's ranging from 1-bedroom to 3-bedroom units, predominantly 1-bedroom units, that's 167. Looking at it, the main access will be off of West Cumberland Road, and there's also a secondary access on Cherry Hill Drive to, looking at to the east of the property. There's also a shared access easement to the west here. So it'll be complement to the commercial properties to the west. So that's the shared access easement. Also looking at the surrounding zoning, since there's single family homes on the south, currently there's a 6-foot wooden fence that's existing. In addition to that, the applicant is proposing a type A buffer yard. And also if you look at the site plan, there's green belts to there's green belts to the west, and there's also green belts to the east of the property. All the staff have reviewed the request, and there is a pedestrian access, well, because Cameron, our traffic engineer, recommended that there so they could have people can have access to the school to the south. So the pedestrian access and the fire access to the Manassas Lane, that's provided also to the south. Parking, landscaping, signage will also be by the Unified Development Code. They also provide some amenities to the north. You can see that there's a dog park and there's also a pool up in the north. Some history of the property: in 2008, a zone change was approved for this property for PMF. That was for 131 units, and it was single-story attached, and this will also be a single-story attached. But that would be predominantly the access would be predominantly was through the neighborhood. It was, the public street became a private street, and it was through the neighborhood, but this will be off of both the Cumberland and the Cherry, and not through the neighborhood. And that was the density of 9.42 units per acre, and this was 14.3. That's the difference. And those are the styles of homes. Out of the 45 notices that was sent, 5 was received in favor and 5 in opposition to the request, with a total protest calculation of 0.63%. The opposition stated concerns mostly of traffic and drainage, and also they were having concerns about privacy. All the departments have reviewed the application and anticipate no significant impact on services. And staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval of this zone change with the site plan.
Thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff?
Thrani, I have a question. So the zone change in 2008 was 9.42 units per acre? Okay. And then they're requesting 14.3 units per acre, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Durrani, you're suggesting approval?
Yes.
Okay. Brian, I'm having trouble thinking of something that's remotely comparable in Tyler. Can you point me to anything that's comparable to this particular development? If it may not be, I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything.
Kyle,
No.
anything?
So, something that's similar to, like a townhome
Right, like
apartment
this,
complex.
like this.
I think we have quite a few of those that are,
I think the one like at
Not three-story.
Grande and Copeland would be one. They've got an entrance and they are.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a similar one, kind of designed more for that, that single, go back to the picture. So more of a street or lower level access thing, as compared to, maybe like a 3-story complex.
Right.
So a few months ago, we were here talking about, a proposal here for 3-story apartment complexes. This is, much less intense than that. I think one other thing to be said, and I'm not sure if the applicant's going to mention it, but the zone change would actually reduce potential commercial land uses in that area. So when we talk about traffic, generation, that it's actually reducing perhaps the expected traffic if those areas were developed as commercial. So it's down zoning some of those properties as well.
Okay, thanks. And they're all 1-story. Any other questions for city staff? All right, if not, I have a card from Mark Priestner. Mr. Priestner? Or Mr. Stowe, whoever would like to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Priestner, Half Associates, 1121 East Southeast Loop. A couple things I want to point out. Like Kyle was saying, so the property is already zoned PMF. We added a section that the zoning changes for from the C1 on Cumberland so that we would have direct access to Cumberland rather than through the neighborhood. One of the things that we heard last time was about the traffic and the overall height and the intrusion of those uses into the neighborhood. So under the existing zoning, now go back, this is the one that's already in place. To your point about the density, while the density goes up from 131 to 274, the actual we're primarily single bedroom. So the bedroom count only goes from, under the existing right now, it is 314, and under the proposed it's 389. So you're actually not that different in overall number of people there. It's just whether you have more 3 bedrooms or more 1 bedrooms. So under the existing, the peak hours of trips that were being generated were 9:58, all of them coming through this neighborhood, whether they came out to Cherry Hill this way or up to Grande coming, or Cumberland coming this way, they all came through this neighborhood 100%. So under the site plan that we're proposing, what we're doing is there are 0 trips that come through this area. So primarily, we're creating the trips coming up and coming out onto Cumberland directly with a secondary access coming this way. So nearly all of the traffic is coming from this direction up. You will have some bleed over into here, but it's a lot less than what was coming through this direction. And then we're limiting them all to single story. So what we're trying to do is do all of those things that we heard in the protest and we've heard from the neighbors on, okay, the overall height. Can we go back to this one? So when we look at the overall site plan, what we're doing is pushing all of the traffic up to access this place. Like we said, we've added the cross access into the commercial. Currently there's a C station under construction on the corner and a commercial lot to it, but it gives it cross access to get over to the intersection. So we're trying to reduce the number of trips up here. We've got the drainage, the issues with the drainage. We're proposing a detention pond back in this area. At worst, it will stay natural in some sort of creek form with a detention pond next to it. That will be the next step of the project, is going through the engineering to see what's going to be required from a true detention standpoint. But we've had the preliminary determination done, and this is going to stay in a natural form. So we're going to keep some sort of buffer there between the two. The last thing I would say is we've also oriented the building so we have minimal windows that are looking onto the neighbors. So we're providing the fencing, we've pushed them as far back as we can, creating the buffer yards and then limiting the number of windows and access to it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, but Mr. Stell will go through kind of what they do.
All right, any questions for Mr. Priester? Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your presence. We do have a card from Paul Stell. Mr. Stell, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Paul Stell. My address is 6502 Slide Road, Lubbock, Texas, Suite 404. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for your time. Appreciate you listening to us and letting us present our project to you. Very excited about being in Tyler. Stellar Family Companies, I'm the founder, CEO. We've been working in the multifamily industry since 1989. We're an investment, development, construction, and property management firm based in Lubbock. We've worked in 24 or 5 markets in 4 states over those years. And we've been looking at Tyler, monitoring Tyler for a while, and we've been very impressed with the community and the economy here. A diversified economy, doesn't boom, doesn't bust. Really feel good about the medical industry and the academic industry here. And this site came before us, and so we saw that the multifamily industry is strong. There's a shortage of supply. There was demand needed. And when we looked at this site, it's in a good area of town. But obviously, previously, a project had been proposed. I don't think it was responsive to some of the issues or the concerns of adjacent property owners. And so we had a product that we developed in many different locations as a single-story product, and we felt like it would be very beneficial here and work very nicely. I can go up through this and walk through. So you know the location, obviously, in South Tyler between Jackson and Broadway. highlighted here in front of you. Zoning in the area, we just highlighted the commercial, office, retail, and the multifamily used as a buffer, common buffer between commercial and single family. And you'll see that in several areas around us as kind of precedents. The current zoning and site plan that was approved funnels all the traffic through the neighborhood. It's almost, it's about 950 some odd cars a day based on the current site plan. And that's what we're changing. We're asking for a site plan modification. And we take that parking, that traffic to zero through this site plan here. Mentioned by Mark, a number of things we try to do is orient the buildings away from the homes, create setbacks. Our minimum is 25, but typically it's more 40, 60 feet setbacks. We have them as great as 130 feet setback here. We added the C1 component so we could get access to Cumberland and provide vehicular access there. And that allowed us to eliminate all the traffic through the neighborhood. And so there was a traffic study done, and in that traffic study you'll see the counts from the traffic there and the variance from the original plan and in our plan. And that was done by Haft and Associates here in town. And so it's a low density, single story townhome style project that appeals to both young professionals that will be working in the medical community as well as empty nesters who are changing from managing a house on their own and wanting to be in an environment where they can have more freedom and not have the maintenance and hassle of home ownership. This depicts some of the same things that we went over earlier. We had a request. We sent out information to every lot and homeowner within the 200 feet and gave them our contact information for them to reach out and communicate. We talked to several of them. We had a lady here I spoke to earlier that wanted to have some screening fences done, and we're certainly agreeable to that on, I just lost the name of the street that comes into the school. I always forget the name of that. Which one is that? That's Blue Mountain. Yeah, I was going to say Blue Mountain. So Blue Mountain. So we're going to put a screening fence there with some brick columns. And so we've had some questions. People have called. We've given them this packet of information and want to work collaboratively with our neighbors. Typical amenities in a multifamily project, you have a clubhouse with a swimming pool, we have cabanas out by the pool, outdoor kitchen, those kind of things, fitness center, business center, coffee lounge. And then the interior units have your tall ceilings, open floor concepts, you'll have your modern appliance packages, your contemporary light fixture, plumbing fixture appointments, hardwood floor, things of that nature in the homes. Mostly one bedrooms. Here's a site plan here. Probably about 60% one bedrooms and the rest focused on 2s and 3 bedrooms. Again, young professionals and we get empty nesters. We get some older than empty nesters. I'm looking for the right term on my line, but elderly who don't walk steps. It's very appealing to them. Our approach is to work collaboratively with our adjoining neighbors and stakeholders, departments, people at the city. We've met with Tarani and the fire department. They requested a fire gate. We're certainly willing to accommodate that. And our commitment is to try to build something that is beneficial to the community surrounding us and something that is a blessing to those who live in it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Any questions? These are all leased units.
Yes, sir.
If not, thank you for your time and presence. Those are the only 2 cards that I have from people who indicated they wanted to speak. Are there others here who would like to speak on this item? Thank you for your presence. Yes, sir. If you'd come to the microphone.
Hello again, my name is Casey Brown. I live at 7721 Cherry Hill Drive. I'm the current president of the Elk River HOA, which is located from Cherry Hill Drive and east on Elk River going towards South Broadway. That's what the HOA is. Cherry Hill and Elk River and Ashley Creek and all of those streets to the east of Cherry Hill. Our neighborhood is made up of 88 homes. I'm here to express our concern and protest the proposed changes to the zoning that this project is requesting. I was here in June and July this past summer regarding a similar project that consisted of around 265 units that were multi-story. In those hearings, many of our neighbors expressed their opinion against the proposed changes, which included invasion of privacy concerns from three-story buildings, increased traffic and noise, and water drainage. Most of that's been mentioned before now. The current project may address some of those concerns for residents in the area. However, it does not address all of them. They're saying 274 units now. I was told it was 260 units, so it's even increased a little bit from the information that I had. So that would be around 400 cars or more in that parking lot for that project. The proposal is moving driveway access from 2 driveways on Balsam Gap to 1 driveway on Cherry Hill. So that would only have 2 driveway access points for the entire complex, 1 on Cumberland and 1 on Cherry Hill. Because of what I call the left lane lineup from Tyler's medians, residents of the project would be very likely to use the driveway on Cherry Hill Drive to U-turn back to Cumberland for a left turn, or a path from Cherry Hill to Elk River and zigzag back up Balsam Gap to get to the traffic light on Blue Mountain. This would put a lot more traffic through the neighborhood, affecting children at play and affecting the quality of life for homeowners in that area. Nearby, to the west on Cumberland, on the other side of that intersection of Blue Mountain and Cumberland at Cumberland Place Apartments, that's at 2051 Cumberland Road. They have 314 units currently that they rent out, with around 400 parking spaces for their residents. That complex has its main driveway access on Cumberland, and they have a rear driveway access on Blue Mountain. Both of those are what I would consider, highways, not residential streets, which is what Cherry Hill Drive is. The current zoning for that area in question is for 131 units. This proposal is for more than twice that amount. The residents of Elk River subdivision want to keep their neighborhood as quiet and as pleasant as reasonably possible. We're asking to either have the traffic be diverted to Cumberland in a second driveway access point, or onto Blue Mountain, which would help residents of the project get on the road in the direction that they want to go without unnecessary U-turns and cut-throughs through our neighborhood, or to not approve the zone changes proposed and leave it as is.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for this gentleman? If not, again, thank you for your time and presence. Are there others who wish to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
My name's Rob Kelling. I live at 7295 Manassas Lane, right there off Blue Mountain. I only got one question: is what is the rent going to be for these locations, for the one bedroom, the 2-bedroom, and so forth?
No idea. No idea. You might talk to the developer about that. Okay. Any others? All right, commissioners. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to respond to that. Our rents range from $1,200 to $1,800 per month on the units. Also, I would like to address Mr. Brown's concern and appreciate his feedback. Thank you for sharing that with us, sir. We do not want having cars turning down Cherry Hill Lane, so we've talked to the city about having a break in that median so they can make a left-hand turn out and not take a right hand. And our indications from the city is that they support that, and that we would pay, of course, to have that median modified so that anyone exiting out on Cherry Hill will be able to take a left hand and not have to go south any. And that would alleviate the traffic Mr. Brown's talking about. Thank you.
Mr. Still, I have a question as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Brown also asked about a connection into Blue Mountain as well, which you do not have currently.
I do not.
And maybe that's for Mr. Priestner, but just wanted to know, is there a particular reason for not connecting to Blue Mountain as well?
Great question. We're happy to have one if the city wanted us to have one. We
Okay.
are not opposed to that. We've had some residents that don't want us to have a connection there.
Sure. Yep.
And the traffic coming in for the school. And so these two allowed us to handle our traffic needs, but we're not opposed to one if the city wanted us to have one.
Okay.
What we are committed to do is make sure whatever we do on Blue Mountain, that it's respectful of the context of the entry of that, it's into that neighborhood and terminates, the vista terminates into the school, so we want it to look nice and, you know, it's the entry to that neighborhood, so we want to make sure it's handled appropriately.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Still.
Any other questions?
Again, thank you for your time and presence.
I'm sorry?
Maybe I should get closer to the microphone. Thank you for your time and presence here.
Thank you, sir.
I had a question for Mr. Priestner as well.
Sure. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Priestner, did I understand your traffic count analysis to state that this is actually by zoning right a reduction in traffic counts? Is that true?
Not a overall reduction in traffic counts. It's about the same, but it's a reduction in the neighborhood. So we're moving all of the traffic right now, 100% comes in through Manassas and Balsam Gap and Cherry Hill to feed into that neighborhood. We're taking 100% of that out and keeping it on Cherry Hill from the fire station north, and then primarily on Cumberland Road.
Okay.
But the overall traffic numbers are about the same.
And then to follow up with that, the question about not stubbing into Blue Mountain as well, that's not based upon any necessity. That's just based upon feedback from the residents. Is that correct?
Partly, and there's a median. If you know that part of Blue Mountain has a median, and so it's two single lanes coming in, right? So it's so close to the intersection that to put a median opening and a left turn in there could cause a problem in that intersection. So Cameron, when we talked with him about where our access points were, they like the two we have. Fire asked for, an access gate only that's Knox-Box controlled to the south, and we agreed to that just because they needed the number of connection points. But that's why we don't have one there. If anything, we could add a right out, only, but I would not recommend that the city, entertain a median cut in that location, because that's where traffic for the school backs up.
Okay. And then what about the cut in the median on Cherry Hill to be able to turn left out?
Yeah,
is that something that's going to happen, or is that something that we're offering and discussing right now?
No, it's going to happen. There's already a median opening just a little bit north of the back end to the fire station, so we're just going to extend it down. And have the opening. So you don't have dual, it will be one extension.
So you will be able to effectively turn left out, go to Cumberland?
Yes, we don't want people coming down to U-turn into the intersection, because then that causes the problem that Mr. Brown was talking about. Because then you get people going in that direction, you want them going north.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other person who'd like to address this application? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being here. If you'd just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Budai, and my address is 1943 Balsam Gap. I'm directly across the street from Jack School. And my concern is, right now, we have a real issue with cars parking bumper to bumper to pick up their children, because this year they changed the way the children are being picked up. And they're blocking driveways. People cannot get in or out of their driveways. My concern about that is twice recently we've had ambulance calls. Now, at the time the ambulance came, the school was not getting out. But that's a real concern for me, that the paramedics would not be able to get in to assist people. And I'd like to know where most of the children would be going to school. Would it be to Jack?
I would assume so. It's not our bailiwick, but I would assume so.
Pardon me?
I would assume so.
Yes. And as I said, this year, they changed the way that the children are being let out of school. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't know if they have any plans to review that and see if it's not being functional. But that's my concern, is having the cars coming and going, constantly blocking. They block the mailboxes, they block the driveways. So to add more onto that is just going to create a bigger problem.
We hear you and we appreciate your concern.
Thank you so much.
Are there, excuse me, are there others who would like to speak on this item?
If I could just add to,
Kyle?
or kind of elaborate on that. So, there may be existing issues with, pick up and drop off and all that. That's kind of why the site plan incorporates the pedestrian access through the neighborhood from this development. That's why staff recommended doing that. So it's so you don't have to get in the car and drop your kids off at the school, that you can have the option to walk to the site from this development. So that was intended to alleviate some of the additional issues that might be created.
Thank you, Kyle.
Kyle, are there any no parking signs on Manassas, Balsam Gap, or Rock Point, or any of those?
I'm not
aware of?
I'm not aware.
All right, commissioners, if there are no other person who'd like to speak, or is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve item PD 22-024.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is Park S22-018 Park Taiwan, 3521 South Broadway Avenue. Thorani? Cleared out the room. Ronnie.
This is a request for a special use permit for a food truck park. This is a property that's located on South Broadway Avenue at the south of the southwest intersection of West Amherst Street and South Broadway Avenue. Special use permits are granted for special uses that are not allowed by right as per the Unified Development Code. They're mostly approved for a period of time. For the first time, we usually approve for 1 year, so we can analyze the impact of the special use permit, and then typically is renewed for 5 years and then indefinitely. So this request is for a special use permit for a food truck park. Looking at the surrounding zoning, north, south, and east is zone C1 and is developed with commercial uses. The property to the west is R1A. It has a single family home. The applicant proposes a food truck park. Let me open up the site plan that was submitted. They're currently proposing for 9 food trucks shown on the upper property. This is like an L-shaped property. They're planning to use the existing building that's to the south for the commissary and also for the restroom facilities. major food truck parks like these need a special use permit as per the UDC. They also have additional regulations that needs to be followed. It needs to meet all the building codes, and it needs to meet net health regulations, and also if there are any federal and state laws, and also the Unified Development Code, all the regulations needs to be met. As for the parking, because there were some concerns regarding the parking in this layout, they are not showing the entire parking in the property, but let me go back to the aerial. There are parking spaces to the south as well, closer to the building, so that it comes up to a total of 36 parking spaces. The Unified Development Code requires, as per the parking regulations, it requires 2 parking spaces per food truck, and that brings up to 18 parking spaces. And I do believe that the applicant is proposing to have seating area inside the building, and for every 100 square feet of seating area, there has to be 1 parking space that is required. So that would limit to 1,800 square feet of seating area inside. So that brings up to the parking 36 spaces that are in the subject property. Also, that's the aerial view. Out of the 13 notices that was sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request. Since this is the first time, since there was questions about traffic and the impact, staff has reviewed the request, and we recommend a special use permit for this food truck park for 1 year.
All right, Thorny, thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
I think, Thorani, I think it sounds like that it checks all the boxes in regards to what the UDC requirement is, and we don't have another food truck park in town that is operational that we can base any, I guess really, we don't have a basis for. I feel like that I have a concern over the number of spaces that would be required to have nine different food trucks. At least to the ones that I've been to, they're extremely popular, and so I think my primary concern is definitely the number of parking spaces that are being provided, and so I know staff is recommending approval, but are there any other staff concerns in regards to the number of parking spaces, or do you know whether the applicant has talked to neighbors about additional off-peak hours parking spaces or anything else like that? Are you aware of anything?
The applicant has not shared us any details about that, but the UDC does have a regulation that states that if any property within 1,000 feet of the food truck park itself, they can have a joint use agreement or a shared parking agreement, and they can make use of that. Also, let me show.
Just go to aerial photo. Just aerial. No,
Also, we just made a comparison between the Broadway Square Mall, so people can not only just park in the facility, so they can walk for a little bit further distance. Let me show you that. And so this is just laying out the site of the Broadway Square Mall, just to see there are all these properties, and then the applicant can make use of the shared parking agreement with all of these properties, so that people can park in these facilities and then walk up to the food truck park. At this time, I don't think they have any shared parking agreement or joint use, but if the commission feels like that will be the route to go, it could be added up in a special use permit as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would just add, so a lot of the other properties south of here appear to be office or, off-peak, depending on maybe lunch crowd might be a different thing, but seem to be off-peak. So if there became an issue, that maybe they could work with their adjacent property owner or nearby property owners to have a shared parking agreement. What this shows here is just that, if you were to overlay perhaps like somewhere, in case there was concern about the distance of walking, that this is, walking from one end of the mall to the other is kind of what is kind of acceptable to many people. So this just kind of shows what kind of parking facilities that exist in that area if they're, obviously if they would want to get permission to
Right.
utilize that, or that may be an issue, but,
I think another position of mine particularly would be is that I wouldn't want to create a scenario where we are burdening an adjacent property owner to say, it's not something that I want, but it's something that's happening anyways, and we've produced it. So where did, if you can recall, where did the number of parking spaces per food truck really come from? Any idea?
It came from the research that was done back when we kind of did an overhaul of that part of the code where
Right.
we could allow mobile food units or food trucks and food truck parks. That was kind of a standard that we saw in other places. And so in this case, you know, whether that's going to be sufficient or not, we can say that that does meet the code requirement, but with a special use permit being limited to, at least in this case, perhaps, you know, a year, that's something that can be revisited if that became an issue, or if, you know, if there was a desire to, you know, limit maybe how many trucks could be possible on the site for that first year. That's another thing to consider, but, and of course, you know, if there's any operation of, you know, under the special use permit that's not in compliance, then they can be essentially recalled or revoked if that became an issue. But
At any time?
it would have to be a condition. Yeah, I mean, if there was a condition placed on the approval, and that was being, you know, not followed, or then that would be the cause to
Right.
revoke it. But yeah.
Because the reality is that, and these are shown as trailers, and so there would need to be a place for the vehicle that's pulling the trailer. That's one parking space, and then if you have one employee that's working there as well, that would be the other parking space. And so now you're down to 0 required theoretically for a food truck park, essentially. So I think probably my primary issue is it enough? But I'm having trouble creating a basis of whether that's fact or not.
And Kyle, I'd like to know, based on this layout, and I've never visited a food truck park before, how do individuals specifically know that they need to pull into a parking spot versus someone that's handicapped and would just pull straight up to the truck? I mean, does that exist? Like I say, I've never visited one. What's to prohibit them from just pulling straight up to the truck? And then you have a conglomerate of traffic.
There may be a bunch of people there, but I'm not sure. I think maybe the applicant can discuss how they plan to utilize, you know, fencing or signage or things like that. Then they can probably address your concern.
And for handicapped people.
Sure.
You know, when you said walking from one end of the mall to the other, some
Sure.
folks can't do that.
Right.
So with this
Go ahead.
plan shown right here, where are the additional parking places you referenced?
It's right in front of the building. It's not shown, but they do have parking right in front of the building.
In front of the building where you used to enter the front door by the porte cochere stuff?
Yes.
And how many was that? How many more? You
It
got
was a total
22?
of 36.
36.
And Pamela, to speak to your point, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, they will be required to have handicap parking spaces, just like any other commercial parking, correct?
So many per.
So many per, but still, we're debating on whether we have even enough, you know, to begin with, so.
As well as the distance.
So we really have two parking issues, the food truck parking and then the customers who dine indoors.
Yes.
But the food trucks, usually it's a truck. It's not like a pickup truck that pulls a trailer.
Sometimes.
I mean, most of
They're-
them,
They're both.
there are a few, but,
Yeah.
but
And this is
I don't
showing
think-
trailers specifically, but I guess it could be, you know,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
normal truck.
food trucks I've
Some
seen
are
are.
whole and some of the trucks that I have a client that's a truck and
Right.
a big trailer.
Yeah. And I don't think we specify what do we specify what's considered a food truck?
It could be any mobile unit
Yeah.
it could be both.
So it could be trailer or truck.
It can be, but that could be something that is stipulated in the approval, that it's gotta be a truck or not a trailer. I mean, if those are concerns with the site, how it would function, that maybe that's, something to consider, but,
I'm gonna ask if the applicant's here. Yes, sir, if you'd like, to come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and maybe you
My
can.
name is Todd Kane, and my address is 1327 at River Road. Where you see the 6 food trucks, I can rope that off where people can't drive up to the trucks. When you was talking about the handicap, and if I need to start with less trucks, I can do that also. And for us, the parking, we have a nail salon, and we have like the cleaners or whatever, we all share the parking lot. They use my parking lot, and I can use theirs. I can get that on paper, like for as a permit if you need that.
I think for my personal feeling, we don't have a precedent. And I think that's where, or we do have a precedent, but I question whether it's appropriate or not in regards to the number of parking spaces. And so I would say if there was some kind of, if there was something that was a part of the special use permit that where we're not putting an undue pressure or burden on your neighbors in regards to parking, I think that would help me specifically.
So basically, I just need a permit showing that it's a joint use parking lot?
I think staff could probably help you with that.
So the nail salon's to the north, correct?
Yes.
Right there, and you're saying that they share the parking lot with your facility to the south? Right. And so they currently share your parking where
Yes,
Shogun's used to be?
When her parking lot is full, when people get nails done, they do like come over and park.
Right, and right now, there's no active business on your property, so they're coming over and parking on a piece of property that's no active. Well, then we'll have 2 active businesses. If they're overflowing to you now, and then y'all go to overflow to them, we're out of parking, and you might get some conflicts. So I think what we're saying is if you could get some type of shared parking agreement with them, where they understand that your clients will use yours and theirs, so you would share the parking together, it'd be just a mutual agreement between the 2 of them. I think that would really put us more at ease with the parking situation.
What will be the time span for your park?
Honestly, I want to go from 10 to 10.
10 A to 10 P?
Yes, ma'am. To start out, whatever I need to do to, whatever y'all recommend, to be honest.
Are you operating food truck parks elsewhere besides this proposed?
So this will be my first.
So I want to commend the idea. I think it's really cool, and I'd love to see it be successful. As has already been stated, I mean, do you see our concern that if you have a thriving food park, Tyler appreciates new cool stuff, and if it's new and cool and popular, hopefully you're gonna have a lot of people here. I mean, don't you see a problem with park? Do you agree that parking is gonna be a concern if it is a success?
I really don't see it being a concern because when Shogun's was open on packed days, it was parking, like it was a joint parking, like you were saying. So I feel like we'll have enough parking spaces. Like I said, I showed 9 food trucks. If I need to drop that down to 6 to see how everything works for that first year, I'm not opposed to that.
In my opinion, because, okay, you needed extra parking spaces because you have indoor eating versus some food truck parks that you just go to the truck, get your food, get in your car, leave.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have a continuous parking availability.
Not to cut you off, but I don't really see people coming to food trucks and staying. They, like she said, like they usually get their food and they're gone.
But you're offering it though. You're offering it.
Mhm.
And because you're offering it, you need more parking spaces. So if you take that off the table,
Yeah.
and if you could get an agreement with the building, possibly if you can develop a collaboration with even this other building where the parking spaces are going straight across, and get an agreement with them, I think you can pull it off and be extremely successful.
Because I picture this as being like
It sets the precedent.
on a Friday night, if a bunch of families say, hey, we're going to the food park, and they've got 15 kids and 6 Suburbans, I mean, that kind of takes it, that kind of covers it, and so I think it's cool. I just think practically, if it's successful, which you want it to be, I think you're gonna look up and say, we don't have near enough room for all these people. I think people are gonna park across the street. I think people are gonna be running across the street at night. Great concept, but man, I just see problems with parking and people.
Yeah. Mr. Kane, I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you only show 6 on the north, the north side, and those 2 spaces down there are unoccupied by food trucks?
Yes, I didn't want to present too many trucks for y'all.
Okay.
So I just showed, just like that. But
Well,
I can honestly fit more trucks there, but like
Right.
I said, I didn't want to show too many.
I think something that might help me would be reducing it down to 8, and then allowing that west side there to be utilized as additional parking, and the ability to turn around and that kind of thing as an alternative. Because we're talking about parking issues and circulation, and then how long people are going to be there, and so on and so forth. I think that, along with some kind of shared access agreement or shared parking agreement would help. Is that something that would be possible?
Yes. I also have another blueprint showing like the width and dimensions of like in between like where the fire trucks can go.
Mhm.
So there's enough room for the fire trucks and everything, the ambulance to get through. And also, how I have the 6 truck station, I would have everything set up the way you can have a food truck here and then an empty space here. So if that person that owns this food truck or trailer, they can park in the empty space.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So they don't need a parking
Those
space.
spaces there would be for the parking for the food truck people with their food truck or trailer also.
Mhm. It's enough space.
Yes.
I just see the ability to delineate, like what you're saying. You're talking about roping off that north section,
Yes.
and I see that as being a positive if you reduced it from 9 down to 8, and they were all condensed on the north side, and then you had additional parking on that west side as well. So it would be a reduction of 1. It would allow for circulation and a little bit more parking in addition to some shared parking agreement stuff.
And the way I was thinking also, when you have the 3 trucks, like I have a food trailer. So in my head, I was just thinking, well, I can put the trailers here, someone else has a trailer where they can just back up instead of like trying to back in at an angle.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, I can take one of 8 for whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution. I mean, it seems like you could create a fair amount of extra parking on that southwest quadrant with some angled parking.
Yep.
One-way drive around. I mean, you could probably get 20, I don't know how many more, but I'd feel better about that.
And it's a back access way, like you can get out the backside of that too.
Past the food trucks up north, on the north side.
What I'm saying is when you have that line where the 6 trucks are,
Uh-huh.
like you can drive straight through that. It's an opening on the backside.
But you said you were gonna rope that off.
Yeah, I can open, I'm just saying, like if people still like need to get in and out, like I can open that up for us, like the fire trucks and stuff like that, where they can come straight.
Oh, you mean for an emergency or something, not
No.
for regular use?
Okay.
I like that idea that Jimmy had, have 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, make this parking, and you should,
Along with the shared agreement.
Along with it.
along
yes.
with the shared agreement for the parking.
And y'all selling beer and wine also?
Not at the moment, I would like to, but I would, rather get this approved first before I take that next step.
Because
So-
that'll have people staying a little bit longer.
It'll be like an Andy sitting down with the tail lift up. So, Deronnie, would we need to table this? in order for him to implement,
We just do a stipulation.
we just
Yeah.
stipulate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bet you Jimmy can come up with a motion on that.
Yeah, Jimmy. Go ahead, Jimmy. I know.
Mr. Reed, would you
What,
care to,
anybody else? Is there anybody?
are there other persons here who'd like to speak on this item? I didn't see anybody. If not, make a suggestion. You do understand this is, if we approve this, it's with the exceptions. It's only for a year. You have a responsibility during that year to run a good shop.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve S 22-018 and stipulating 8 food trucks only on the north quadrant and parking for the balance of the remainder, and also including a shared parking agreement with the property to the north.
Second.
And that permits for that.
And the
special use
permit is for 1 year.
Second.
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item's approved. Good luck with your project. Mr. Nichols, is this next one yours? Let the record show that Lloyd Nichols has stepped out room. We'll find out if the chair can remember to call him back or not. Some question about that. All right, Z22-069. Thrani?
This is a zone change request from R1D, Single Family Attached and Detached Residential District, to RMF, Multifamily Residential District. This is a property that's located west of the intersection of Shiloh Village Drive and Shiloh Road. The applicant is requesting for a multifamily development on this property. Looking at the surrounding zoning, the properties to the north are zone PCD, which is planned commercial district, and it's developed with commercial uses. Properties to the west or zone RMF, and it has already a multifamily development in the area. And the properties to the south is PUR, it's planned unit residential, and it's developed with single-family homes. And the properties to the east is R1D, and they're all single-family homes that's attached and detached residential district. Future land use guide, this identifies this property as townhouse garden apartment. This would be consistent with the future land use guide. The applicant is proposing for a multifamily development. At this time, they don't have an exactly how many number of units or anything, but RMF allows for a maximum of 24 units per acre. Looking at the subject property, there is a creek that's running through from like the west to the east of the property in the middle, so most of the development would be concentrated to the north of the area, and the south slender portion that you see. At this time, they don't have any time in developing in that piece. Out of the 36 notices that was sent, none was received in favor. Actually, 11 notices was received in opposition to the request, and that's actually 7.11%. That's not shown in here, but that's 7.11. It's 11 notices. The opposition was mostly concerned about, since there's a creek running through in the area, they were concerned about stormwater drainage and also tree preservation, and mostly the opposition was from the neighbors to the east. That's the Shiloh Village Road, that's R1D single family home development. They were concerned about having a multifamily unit right to the west of their property. The Stonegate division to the south, we had some concern about from those neighbors as well. They did request for 100 feet greenbelt buffer. If you see the properties to the west that do have already a 100 feet buffer, they were wanting something similar arrangement so there can be a buffer between the multifamily and the single family to the south. Also pointing out that Shiloh Village is a minor arterial street, and it's developed with multifamily and commercial uses all around. So this would be consistent in the area. Staff has reviewed the request, and staff recommends approval of this zone change from R1D to RMF.
All right, Throne, any questions for Throne?
Would you mind showing the aerial one more time of the existing structures? Just look at it again. Yeah, 32, yeah, perfect, thank you.
Ronnie, I'm assuming the protests were on that western, there we go.
Back to the aerial map.
I think you said there's already a 100-foot buffer on the west side, is that?
Yes.
Yes, that property there is actually owned by the Stonegate HOA. I believe they must have purchased that from the apartment complex right there to preserve that, so, so there's a buffer there, but it's provided by the owner, which is Stonegate.
Did you say something about these, the protesters requesting a buffer?
Yes, the Stonegate subdivision, they requested a 100-feet buffer.
Oh, the Stonegate. Okay.
And Ronnie, where, you said that they would mostly be concentrating on building
Yes.
further north. Where does the creek? Okay. So why are the residents concerned if they won't be building on the southern section of that? That's a buffer in itself.
I believe they have not seen the site plan or any plans yet. That's why they were concerned that the development was going to go closer to their property.
Ronnie, I think for the simple fact that we don't have any kind of plans, nor do we know what their actual density is going to be. I would like to see some kind of site plan, or some kind of planned district, because they're requesting a straight zoning district. I think that would alleviate a lot of, or at least it would give room for massaging in of some adjacent property owners, some neighbors' requests, and also would delineate, what the project would end up looking like. Because right now it doesn't. We don't know. They could go all the way up to that 24 units an acre. Plus, they could go multi-story as well too. And so a planned district could delineate that, really for us, if that was a concern for neighbors.
I believe the applicant's representative is here, and they could answer some of your questions.
Great.
Yeah, I have a card from Justin Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins. And also Peyton McGee. Anyone? Either, it's your choice.
Yeah, I'm Peyton McGee. I'm at 1344 Noel Road in Dallas, Texas. I'm representing the applicant and the owner on behalf of the owner. As they talked about a little bit here, it's about 13 and a half acres, but the creek runs from the northeast down to the southwest, creating that natural buffer. You can kind of see the darker spot. Does the mouse work? Yes. Okay. Right here, this is the center line of the creek. Through here, so the natural buffer from the Stonegate development, you can't develop practically on that southern piece because of the width of the parcel itself. And so from that point, the 100-foot buffer is really several hundred feet of undevelopable acreage. So the leftover acreage, just so you're aware, we're looking at the floodplain and the creek that runs through there. We wanted to see how today went before they kicked me off on a study of that creek, but we have the city ordinances and regulations that we have to follow, as well as state laws, to not have adverse impacts to our downstream or upstream neighbors. So we would be following all those rules and regulations through the development process. As far as the site plan goes, the reason why they're pursuing this is more of an investment property. They're waiting to have a developer in tow before they develop a site plan, so we could come back and do a site plan at that time. Access is off of Shiloh. There's only really possibility for 2 points of access along there anyways for fire department access, so the development itself is concentrated on that northern tract. And I can answer any further questions after things, or however you guys want to do it.
So, Commissioner McGee, you can also submit a site plan narrative as well. And so you wouldn't particularly have to go through the formal process of having it designed. Now, I would probably recommend getting a full site plan done for something to show, because of the number of protests and your neighbors' requests. But that is an alternative that could be a part of this, could be worked into that.
Is that something that could be produced between now and council? I can do that. I'm asking if that's something that would be acceptable to present between now and council.
I would say that'd be something that should be reviewed by the planning commission if that's their recommendation. So if that's the recommendation is to come back with a site plan or a narrative or something like that, or with the plan district, then I think the normal process would be to table it and allow that process to play out.
Mr. Riggi, I think your neighbors would appreciate a drawing, a diagram over the narrative, but it would be more cost effective to do a narrative for you.
Understood.
And just practically, the more detail you can present to us, the better decision we can make.
Because we've seen the people they've come before. I remember that distinctly.
The west.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think there's other people here to speak. I can follow up on that. And my client is available by phone, so I'll see if we want to table or continue this afternoon. Thank you.
We appreciate your input. I do have a card from Justin Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins? Just state your name and address for the record.
Mr. John, my name is Justin Jenkins. I live at 5011 Shallow Village Drive. I'm here on behalf of myself and as the president of Shallow Village Homeowners Association. And obviously we are against this zoning change due to a lot of the storm rainwater runoff. There is, Shallow Road is a highly trafficked road, and as it goes eastbound, it's one way. As it goes westbound, it's two-way. The only point of entry onto that property is at the very top of that hill. Turning out of that neighborhood of Shallow Village, it is very difficult to see any traffic going over. There's a lot of times that people are being passed whenever I turn into my neighborhood. People are coming down and pass me in the turn lane. There are people who are trying to turn and go onto Inverness and the other roads to the north. It's a safety issue, as well as adding this, density in there. There's been a lot of crime increase, which Tyler PD records could show that there's been a deal, but we have sought advice from Tyler PD. We've gone to crime watches and done things with Officer Sharp. And Officer Sharp said whenever you add people, you add crime. So from a safety standpoint, as far as crime, we would, we're against this. Having a site plan would definitely help to kind of see, but Shallow Village would like to see a 150-foot buffer green belt built in there. Would like to see an 8-foot privacy wall of stone or brick or something to kind of help prevent those sight lines as well. And realistically would prefer the ingress and egress of the property to not be onto Shiloh Road. That, you know, Biloxi's much more capable of handling the ingress and egress, where Shiloh Road is not, which I know that's now not a possibility with stone gates, but, from a safety standpoint, having the ingress and egress right there at the top of that hill is very difficult. Especially when you're talking about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when traffic from people turning southbound onto Biloxi back up to the top of that hill. When you have people that are also trying to turn in and out of that place, it would be a very difficult thing. So, thank you guys for your time and your consideration. Yes, sir.
Mr. Jenkins, would you be willing to work with Mr. McGee and have a meeting or something like that where y'all could work your requests and concerns and that kind of thing for the association?
There's definitely in my letter that I submitted, you know, I stated in there that the homeowners association would be willing to reconsider the position if the following conditions were were met.
Okay. Thank you.
I obviously know that some of the safety concerns is also on the city as far as roadways and access points and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I know
Yes,
that
sir.
there would have to be kind of a three-way, you know, that's done.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins, thank you for your time and presence. Any other questions from Mr. Jenkins? Are there others here who'd like to speak on this? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Scott Myers. I reside at 1915 Stonehill Drive in Stonegate. I'm here this afternoon in my capacity as President of the Stonegate Property Owners Association. Stonegate's 100 owners are very concerned about this proposed rezoning and the implications of that, specifically about stormwater runoff, construction silting, and erosion from this very severely sloped property. The gentleman just before me addressed, and you probably saw if you looked on a map, West Mud Creek comes through this property in 2 different places. One, it comes from Shiloh Village and flows to the southwest corner. It also runs across almost directly east-west on the south along Stonegate's north border, and then through a piece of land that we have that's just to the west of this property, the south end of it, to Biloxi. Our concern is not only the impact to Stonegate, but also to potential risk to West Mud Creek. And as a result, so as you saw in our submission, we are against this proposed zoning change. However, we are willing to reconsider that objection if 4 conditions are met. And one of those that I heard is definitely one of those, and that is that this is considered a planned multifamily development with a site plan. But we also believe, because of where West Mud Creek comes through there twice, you're going to need at least 2 detention ponds properly engineered to protect with storm water runoff down through there. Also, if and when they do have construction, proper silting protection from those lots. And then we mentioned earlier, I heard a 100-foot green belt along the south border. Okay. I wasn't quite clear, I couldn't hear exactly, but Stonegate's perspective is on, if you look at that long skinny leg that comes down there, that's where we're talking about the 100-foot green belt, not necessarily on the west side of that. It's also our understanding that these owners are pursuing acquiring the 3 3-acre lots immediately to the east of this property, and if they're successful in that, we'd have those same conditions, if you will, if that were to happen. Bear with me for some background. So why do we feel this way? And it stems back principally to that West Mud Creek is a principal part of the city's stormwater management system, and it must be protected. You mentioned here where West Mud Creek comes through this property and across Stonegate in 2 different places in here. And so what happens if this runoff is not controlled? Well, we have a real life example. My colleague here was just speaking about Shiloh Village. So we had an issue with uncontrolled drainage from Shiloh Village. You may have been aware of this back in 2020. No drainage control was put in place, and as a result, it created two different exposures. One that exposed the city's sanitary sewer lines that run east-west through this land there, and we have, Bob Westbrook got involved, places where the manholes were eroded by 10, 15 feet because of this uncontrolled runoff through there. But also close to home, in March of 2020, runoff from Shiloh Village destroyed about 30 feet of Stonegate spillway. The spillway, I'll tell you more about the dam here in a second, is a critical part of the dam and spillway and runoff solution. Repairing this damage cost Stonegate $17,000. The city held the developers accountable for putting in proper drainage, which they did. We're still stuck with this bill. So Stonegate's 16-acre lake, which holds 190 acre-feet of water, and dam is more than 50 years old. Our spillway provides managed release of water into West Mud Creek, and therefore it's critical that the creek's capacity to handle stormwater be protected. Any further damage or erosion to that could jeopardize our dam's integrity. Our dam and spillway are regulated by the state because of all the development from Biloxi on down on West Mud Creek, which, by the way, as you probably may know, is FEMA floodway. Because of the state's regulation of that, we have to have a dam emergency plan. TCEQ has approved our plan. They inspect our dam and spillway about every 2 years. Our plan's also been signed off by Fire Chief Coble, and we conduct emergency exercises with them in their emergency management capacity. So I apologize for the long statement. I hope you have a better appreciation for our concern. I think this project's doable with a few conditions that have already been mentioned here, but from our perspective seem reasonable to protect West Mud Creek and in particular our interests at Stonegate. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and presence. Any questions for this gentleman? Are there others who would like to speak on this zoning item? If not, I could be wrong, but I kind of felt a consensus maybe to table this item for.
Should we ask the developer?
Yeah, I thought they were gonna find out.
Yes, that is fine. I would like to know when that is.
Sure. Is that a consensus? Somebody like to make a motion? 30 days, 60 days?
30 days.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table Z22-069 for 30 days.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this item for 30 days. And that meeting is?
January 3rd.
January 3rd. Thank you all for your time and presence here. I'm sorry. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now let me see if I can get Mr. Nichols.
Didn't get forgotten.
I know.
I'm a slow learner. It takes time to. The next item is PD 22-022, East Texas Veterans Community Council. Kyle?
Yes, sir. This is a zone change request from single family, which is R1A, AR, adaptive reuse, RPO, restricted professional and office district, M1 light industrial and M2 general industrial to planned mixed use district 1, PMXD 1, to allow for a mixture of uses to serve the expansion of the Camp V veterans facility on this property. You can see here, this is located along Chandler Highway, where Camp V is currently, they have a headquarters there with some uses there in the office zoning. Property is currently zoned office where they're currently operating, but they do plan to expand the operation to include a mixture of other uses such as an activity center. Let me go to that really quick. Activity centers, food truck park, some other things, some housing in the south side of the property, transitional housing for veterans, and then just some office and therapy kind of services as well. At this point, the staff is still working with the applicant because there's some additional details that's needed to evaluate whether the proposal would meet all kind of minimum requirements and to go through that full review. So at this point, staff would recommend tabling the request for an indefinite period of time to allow, especially with the holidays and things like that, additional time to review and get more information and review the request. If, again, like previous items we had today, if once we know that it can be scheduled, we would re-notify that and go through that. So, like I said, at this time, staff would recommend tabling the item indefinitely.
All right, thank you. Any questions for city staff? Because this item was posted, persons here who might have an interest on this item are welcome to speak. I don't have any cards. Are there persons here who'd like to comment on this item? Staff recommendation is to table indefinitely.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table PD 22-022 indefinitely.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item is tabled indefinitely. Y'all, persons who are interested in this, if you'd stay in touch with the city staff. Next is Z22-068, Ramirio Borja. Did I skip one?
No, that's it.
Thanks, Kyle.
Correct one. This is a zone change request from R1B single family to RPO restricted professional office district. This is for a property located on the Northwest Loop. As you can see here, the property is located there in green, surrounded by single family zoning. On the east side of the loop, on the west side is commercially zoned. I believe that portion is currently undeveloped, but the surrounding properties are developed with single family homes. This request would amend the future land use guide to office. It is one of the few, if not the only, aside from the property to the south, which is also owned by the applicant, the only properties that actually have sole access to the loop. The other residential lots have access internally. So you can see here the applicant's requesting just a portion of this property. They do have a subdivision plat or an amended plat to move the lot line where that house is, move the lot line to include that house. With that plat, they are showing a shared access easement with that property onto the loop. So due to TxDOT spacing requirements, that they'd have to share an access there. Of the notices that were sent out, none were returned in favor or opposition to the request. Staff still needs some information from the applicant. It's our understanding that this request is speculative in nature, and based off the size of the property, one of the conditions for approving it, or approval is that that the property is suitable for the development contemplated on the property. With all the surrounding properties being residential, they will be required to have a 10-foot, at minimum, a 10-foot buffer yard adjacent to those, which severely limits the buildable area on the property. We've just tried to work with the applicant, asked if they could provide some more information on how they would plan to utilize the property and, you know, supply for a building that's of adequate size and parking and things like that, and still meet all the requirements. Staff's not asking for a site plan or a plan development or anything like that. It's just trying to preclude or prevent any need for, you know, variances later on if the zoning wasn't appropriate. So with that said, staff would recommend tabling this item until we get more information.
Thanks. Any questions for city staff? I don't have a card on this item. Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we indefinitely table Z22-068.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table indefinitely. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is Z22-070, Geneco DMLT Limited.
This is a zone change request from C1 Light Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District. This is located near the Troop in the Loop intersection. It's the location of the Green Acres shopping, or Green Acres bowling alley. The owner of the property is requesting to rezone this to allow for additional commercial uses on the property. They currently don't have an intended use or change in use, but their request here is to essentially match what they see in the area with other C2 properties along the loop. And then you do see C2 to the east and also further to the south. The request is consistent with the future land use guide, which shows it as mixed-use center. There is a neighborhood to the south which the buffer yard doesn't change between that property and whether it's C1 or C2. And there's also C2 further to the south. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval of the zone change from C1 to C2.
Any questions for Kyle? If not, are the persons here who wish to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you guys for your time today. I'm Andrew Snodgrass with Benchmark Design Group, 2026 Republic Drive. Here representing Geneco for this today. Really just here to answer any questions you have. Kyle did a good job explaining it. We don't have anything proposed or coming right down the pipeline for this, but I know they've been approached in the past about either development opportunities or sales opportunities on this property. And being Zone C2 is a less restrictive zoning, which kind of allows them, if the right opportunity came along, to be able to move on it instead of having to, you know, worry about a contract falling through during a rezoning process. So again, there's no immediate plans for it, but just here to answer any questions you guys may have or relay those back to the owner.
All right, thanks. Any questions?
What's the main difference? I mean,
So C2 would allow for outdoor display. That's the bigger difference. But C2 will allow for, you know, temporary uses outside as well. I think usually a C1 zoning gets, you know, that becomes an issue as well. So, but the main difference is outdoor display.
Thanks for your time and presence. Any others who wish to speak on this item? If not, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve Z22-070.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is Z22-065, Rentiera.
All right, this is a zone change from R1A, Single Family Residential District, to
R1D, Single Family Attached and Detached District, Residential District. It is located at the northeast intersection of Barn Street and Old Noonday Road. The applicant is requesting the zone change to build 2 single-family homes. To the north and east is zone R1A, Single-Family Residential District. It is currently undeveloped and developed with single-family homes respectively. To the south is zone PUR, Planned Unit Residential District. It is currently undeveloped. To the west is zone R1A and C1 Light Commercial and consists of single-family homes. The future land use guide does identify this as single-family medium to low density. So this would amend the future land use guide to reflect single-family and single-family attached. Under current R1A zoning, these lots would not meet the minimum lot size requirement of 9,000 square feet. This request would allow for a use that is consistent with the rest of the area. This zone request is consistent with the Tyler First goal of adding more residences to the north end planning area. Of the 17 notices mailed, no notices were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. Staff has performed technical review of this request and finds it is generally consistent with the approval criteria. Staff does recommend approval of this zone change.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, are there persons here who wish to speak on this item for or against? If not, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve -065.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is Z22-066. Dwight David Patterson.
This is zone change request from multifamily residential district to AR, adaptive reuse district. It is located at the northeast intersection of Bryant Street and South Chilton Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to use the property as a residence and an office space. To the north and east, it is zoned RMF, multifamily residential district, and developed with single-family homes. To the south and west, it is zoned AR, adaptive reuse, developed with single-family homes and a bed and breakfast, respectively. The future land use guide, this is consistent with the future land use guide, and it identifies this property as single-family, medium to low density. AR zoning is typically used to help maintain the residential character for a reused home. The existing house is known as the Isabel and Lester Smith House and is a designated local historic landmark. Of the 21 notices sent out, 1 was returned in favor and none in opposition to the request. Staff has performed technical review of the request and finds that it is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval.
So this would protect the fact that it's a historic property?
Yes, and any permits, they would have to get a certificate of appropriateness from the Planning Department and Historic Preservation Board.
It's the most appropriate zoning for perhaps a landmark because it keeps the property in use for, light office use and residential use.
And the property we're talking about is the lower left picture that's being displayed with the yellow sign in front, not the red brick house on the opposite side.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
All right. Any questions for city staff? Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Z22-066.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. Next is Z22-067, Custom Black Stallion Homes.
This is a zone change request from M1 Light Industrial District to R1D Single Family Residential District, Attached and Detached Residential District. It is located at the northeast intersection of East Locust Street and North Beverly Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop the property with a single family home. To the north, east, and south, it is zoned M1 and Light Industrial District, and it is undeveloped. To the west is zoned R1B and consists of a single family home. The future land use guide identifies this as medium to low density. This request would amend the future land use guide to reflect single family and single family attached. This request would allow for a use that is consistent with the rest of the area, and also it is consistent with the Tyler First goal of adding more residences to the North End planning area. Of the 15 notices mailed out, no notices were returned in favor or in opposition to the request. Staff has performed technical review and finds it is generally consistent with the approval criteria. Staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, I have a card, I believe from the applicant, Gustavo Govea.
Okay.
You're okay. Well, that's a good place to be. Would you just for the record, come to the microphone, state your name and address, please? You look okay to us, but. It's okay, it's all right.
My name is Gustavo Govea. I live on 12277 Elmwood Street here in Tyler.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? If not, thank you. Any other person who wishes to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve Z22-067.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Good luck with your project. Next is Z22-071, Lamar LLC.
This is a zone change going from R1A, Single Family Residential District, to R1B, Single Family Residential District. It is located at the southwest intersection of Lamar Street and Pacific Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop the property with a single family home. To the east is zone C1 light commercial and is the location of a church. To the northwest and south is zone R1A, single family residential district, and consists of single family homes. The future land use guide identifies this property as single family medium to low density, which means it is consistent with the Tyler First future land use guide. Under current R1A zoning, the property would not meet minimum lot size. So R1B zoning will eliminate that barrier and allow for a lot size that would be 6,000 square feet. Of the 13 notices mailed, no notices were returned in favor of the request or in opposition to the request. Staff has performed a technical review and finds it is generally consistent with the approval criteria. However, right now the applicant later had mentioned that they would like to include the two properties to the north for the zone change. So in order for them to really get a house of the size that they're wanting in the rendering, they would like to eventually move the lot line as well. So staff recommends tabling the item for 30 days. Therefore, we can re-notify the area and include those two lots to the north in the notification zone.
All right, thank you. Any questions for city staff? Are the persons here who wish to speak on this item? If not, is the staff's recommendation is table for 30 days? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we table Z 22-071 for 30 days.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That brings us to plats. Thorani.
Yes.
P 22030 North Park Estates.
This is a plan, this is a preliminary plat, so it's a plan for 12 lot subdivision, approximately 35 acres of land. This is located in the Tyler ETJ extraterritorial jurisdiction. The purpose of the plat, there you go, let me show, is to plan for a 12 lot subdivision. All the staff comments have been addressed and the staff recommends approval of this plat.
All right, thanks. Are the persons here who wish to speak on this plat? If not, the Commissioner would like to make a motion.
Just a point of clarification, is it 12 or is it
doesn't look like-
105?
It doesn't look like 12.
Yeah, this is for a 105 lot preliminary plat. This is over by Tyler High School.
But it's,
I think the number was correct. I think the name was correct. I think just the quantity of lots.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
All right, do we know the right number now?
105.
105? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is a preliminary plat. This actually is a future extension of Jordan Plaza Boulevard, which goes into Highway 64 west. As you can see it on the south side there. It does have an alignment into that future street there, which will extend north, and that collector street would eventually go into Highway 110.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Zach Clark. I'm with 212 West 9th Street with MHS Planning and Design. I'm here representing the applicant, and that is correct. So there's going to be 98 buildable lots on here, and then 105 total lots. So about 7, 8 lots will be open space lots, which can be used as mailbox kiosk locations, and then just open space.
All right, thanks for being here. Any questions for the applicant? If not, are there others who wishes to speak? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve F22-127.
wait, that's not the.
No.
That's not E2-030.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Items approved. Next is F22-127 Highway 64 Home Place Final Plat.
This is definitely a 27 lot subdivision.
Okay.
It's approximately, it's approximately 39.9 acres. This is located also in the city of Tyler, ETJ, southeast intersection of County Road 1184 and Highway 64 west. That's the plat. All the staff comments have been addressed at this point, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
All right, thank you, Thorani. Questions for Thorani? Are there persons here who wish to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve F22-127.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Items approved. Next is P22036 Turtle Creek Edition. Final preliminary plat.
The next two items are the preliminary plat and final plat of the same thing, but let me go over each one. This is a plan for a 5 lot subdivision, 12.70 acres of land. This is also in the Tyler ETJ. It's located at the southeast intersection of County Road 1103 and Highway 155 South. They're subdividing this one lot, one piece of tract into 5 individual lots. All the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this preliminary plat. Thank you, Thorani. Questions for Thorani? Can we approve both of these at the same time or not? Yes.
P 22-036 Turtle Creek Edition preliminary plat and P 22-145 Turtle Creek Edition final plat. Are there persons here who wish to speak on either one of these items or both? If not, is the staff recommendation is to approve? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve P 22-036 and F 22-145.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve both of these. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, F 22-149 Bellwood Edition Unit 1 final plat.
This is one of our exciting projects that's coming in town. This is a 9-lot subdivision. This is just the first phase of the development. It's 53.38 acres of land. It's located northwest intersection of Earl Campbell Parkway and the Loop 323. The property is currently zoned PCD. Like I said, it's just the first phase of the development, and all the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of the plat.
All right, thanks. Questions for Thrani? If not, any person here would like to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve F 22-149.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item's approved. Are these consent plats Group A all eligible to be approved, Kyle?
Yes, sir.
All right, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent plats Group A, F 22-131, F 22-144, F 22-130. Are there persons here who wish to discuss any of these? If not, if there's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve consent plat Group A.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve these. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those items are approved. Next is consent plats Group B. Are these still not to be approved?
So items 1, 2, and 3, which are Esther Court preliminary, Esther Court final, and Britton Brookshire subdivision final plat. All three of those can be approved. The final item, number 4, Claremore Edition, still does not meet the technical criteria for approval.
All right, is there a motion to approve P 22-039 Esther Court, P 22-146 Esther Court final plan, and F 22-128 Britton Brookshire subdivision final plat?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve P 22-039, F 22-146, and F 22-128.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those are approved. And F 22-148 Claremore Edition third amendment, that is not eligible to be approved, so the motion, staff recommendation is to deny.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny F 22-148.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny F 22-148. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Plat's denied. We're now in recess. And aren't we happy?
We continue the fun across the street?
Yes, sir.
They were here.
That way.
The clinic
No, they are selling.
Oh, they're selling it to those people. Okay. They just requested the zoning change.